Hey everyone, this is Miss Lowe, and today I'm going to talk to you about a standard RI 8.1. That standard is new in the sense that we're talking now about informational text. Informational text is text that is nonfiction. It is real, full of information. We have previously talked about RL 8.1, which deals with our literary text, which is our fictional text. So the first part of the video is going to be a review of some of the vocab, and then I'm going to talk to you about how to find evidence that strongly supports an inference. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we will get started. So first I want to talk to you about citing strong evidence to make inferences. So this is what the standard says, and it should look very familiar. It is the same exact wording for RL 8.1. Cite the textual evidence that most strongly supports an analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as inferences drawn from the text. Here is a slide that goes over the vocab. The key vocabulary is listed here. Just to remind you, an inference is where you take what the text says as well as your prior knowledge and you draw a logical conclusion from it. That's what an inference is. An inference is an educated guess based on text evidence as well as prior knowledge. We have talked extensively about what it means to cite. We know that there are different ways that you can cite evidence. One being that you could directly quote it from the text, you could paraphrase it, or you could just put it into a summary sentence. So evidence is information used to support an opinion or belief. Evidence can also be used to support an inference, which is a conclusion that's based on facts combined with what you already know. Good readers combine evidence and their own knowledge to support inferences. So we have already been doing this with literary text, and now we're going to start reading informational text, and we're going to apply this standard to informational text. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through this text, and then I'm going to do a think aloud, and I'm going to show you how I would think through this question that's at the bottom. So the question at the bottom says, what inference can you make about why auroras fascinate people? So knowing that the question is asking for an inference, I already know that there is not going to be something explicitly stated, that it's not going to explicitly say, auroras fascinate people because. That's not going to be anywhere in the text. When it asks me to infer, I know that I will have to use my prior knowledge as well as clues from the text. So I need to find clues in this text to help me make this or help me understand why people are fascinated by auroras. So what are auroras? Right there, we already know that this is informational text, and we should know that it's going to tell me what auroras are. It says, imagine a brilliant laser light show in the sky where ribbons of green, red, or violet dance across the atmosphere. While these fascinating lights might look like they come from machines, they are actually a natural phenomenon known as an aurora. Auroras occur when highly charged electrons from solar interact with elements such as oxygen and nitrogen in the atmosphere. When the electrons strike the oxygen and nitrogen atoms, rays of light are formed. The color of these rays depend on which atoms collide and the altitude or height at which they meet. The rays often run parallel and take turns dimming and brightening in the night sky. But where exactly do these light spectacles form? Like the needles of a compass, auroras are attracted to Earth's two magnetic ends, the geographic north and south poles. The rays themselves follow the slanting direction of Earth's magnetic field. Okay, so this is a 3-paragraph informational text. And again, my question here is, what inference can you make about why auroras fascinate people? So nowhere in here did it tell me why auroras fascinate people. I have to make an inference. I have to use my prior knowledge and my clues from the text. So what inference can you make about why auroras fascinate people? First, I know that the author doesn't directly state it, so it's not explicitly stated, so I have to find clues, okay? In the very first paragraph, the author says to the reader, which is me, imagine a brilliant laser light show in the sky with ribbons of green, red, and violet. Now, when I think about something fascinating, I think that might really be pretty cool, okay, to see all these different colors in the sky, almost like fireworks, right? People are attracted and go to watch fireworks displays. So this right here, the fact that there's this natural occurring light show, that would probably fascinate people. So right in the first paragraph, I have a clue, the brilliant laser show. That would be very fascinating to me. And I can assume that most people would be fascinated as well. Okay, so I continue to read. And so as I'm reading, it's giving me information about how the auroras occur and where the auroras occur. So I have to think back, why or what inference can you make about why auroras fascinate people? I would say that auroras fascinate people because it's something that occurs naturally. It's beautiful lights. It's a huge spectacle in the sky. And so I would combine all of those clues to answer that question. Okay. Now, we're going to continue reading this text. So it continues on and it says, auroras occur along auroral ovals, which surround the magnetic poles. These ovals roughly correspond with the Arctic and Antarctic circles. Aurora borealis, the northern lights, are visible near Earth's magnetic north pole from high northern latitudes in North America, Europe, and Asia. Aurora australis, the southern lights, are visible near Earth's magnetic south pole from high southern latitudes in Antarctica, South America, New Zealand, and Australia. So I first want to stop and make sure that you understand why this is informational text. It's informational text because it's giving us facts. Here we have more information about where the different auroras occur. We know that there's two different types of auroras. There's the aurora borealis and there's the aurora australis. So I have one more question I want to read with you and break down and show you how to find the best evidence. So here's a question. It says, a student makes the following inference based on reading the text. So the inference is, auroras are not visible from the low latitudes around the equator. Which choice is the strongest piece of evidence to support this claim? So the inference that the student created was that auroras are not visible from the low latitudes around the equator. So let's look at our answer choices. And you can see I've already highlighted the correct answer. Auroras are seen from high latitudes near each magnetic pole. B says the aurora borealis is visible in North America and Europe. The aurora australis is visible in Antarctica and New Zealand. And auroras form near the magnetic poles of other planets as well. Now, we are being asked to find the strongest piece of evidence. So let's just think of it this way. When we see the word strongest, it's almost like the word best, right? If you are running a race and you want to be the best, you don't want to come in second place or third place. You might be okay with that, but the truth is that we want to be the best. We want to be the strongest because this right here means that we are it. We're number one. So when we're looking for the strongest piece of evidence, you have to think of what is the best piece of evidence. What holds the most weight? What is the clincher? What is the end all be all piece of evidence? So let's look at this question or the inference. Auroras are not visible from low latitudes. So if I'm thinking about that, of course I would go back into the text. And again, it's asking us, it's saying that they're not visible from low latitudes. So which piece of evidence here? Well, why isn't it B? You might wonder why it's not B. B is incorrect because it does, in fact, show some places where the aurora borealis can be seen. But it's not enough evidence to make this particular inference. So this inference was made, and now we're looking for the best evidence. So this right here doesn't necessarily say anything about not being visible from low latitudes. It is a piece of evidence in the text. It is something that's in the text, but it doesn't support this inference. Well, choice C, we might think the same reason. Choice C is incorrect because, again, it shows some places where the aurora australis can be seen, but it's not enough evidence to make this inference. So it's evidence, yes, but it's not the strongest piece of evidence. Well, now let's look at D. D says auroras form near the magnetic poles of other planets as well. Well, that doesn't necessarily tell us that where they're not visible from. So that really doesn't support that inference either. Now, auroras are seen from high latitudes. The reason that is the correct answer is it because it specifically says high latitudes, which would make this inference correct. The fact that it says that they're seen from high latitudes proves that this inference is correct because it says they're not visible from low latitudes. So again, even though B, C, and D are all facts that are contained in this text, they're not the strongest piece of evidence to support this inference or this claim. Now, that is the little lesson I have for this standard. But I want to make sure, again, guys, that you understand that this is key vocabulary to help you fully understand how to read critically. We are talking about reading critically. We're talking about looking not just what's on the page, not just what is explicitly stated, but we really, really need to understand how to make inferences. And we need to understand that an inference is not just reading what's on the page, but it's also applying that prior knowledge, like we did here. Like I did here where it says fascinated. How do I know auroras fascinate people? Well, again, I applied my prior knowledge of fireworks displays because I know that people always go to see fireworks. And so those lights that people shoot up in the sky for fireworks, those fascinate people. So I would then be able to make the logical inference or the logical conclusion that a natural laser light show would also be very, very fascinating to people. Okay, so again, make sure you look over your vocabulary, make sure you study the vocab, make sure you know the vocab, and as you read, always just read critically. Always analyze, always make sure that you understand not just what's written on the page, but also what's beneath the surface. Okay, I hope you guys have a great day.